The only thing I can say is we've now seen how bad it is, how bad their policies are. So in one way, that's the only way, but in one way, we're showing the world, we're showing the country how bad they are. Open borders, how stupid is open borders. All of these things that they've done to destroy our country, so we can actually be more effective in the next 4 years because of it, because it's so bad what they've done. Charging a former president of the United States under the Espionage Act of 1917. This is meant for developing a nuclear weapon in your basement, is one of the most outrageous and vicious legal theories ever put forward in an American court of law. It's considered one of the meanest, most vicious acts. It's a very, very unfair and horrible act that was passed in 1917, and for many, many years in Congress, they've been trying to get rid of it because it's so heinous, it's so horrible. And by the way, Biden has 1,850 boxes of documents. Many of them are classified, and he's not allowing them to see at University of Delaware. He's got boxes in Chinatown, D.C., Chinatown. He's got boxes at Penn, the Penn Center, where China gives tens of millions of dollars a year and where he makes a lot of money. And he's got boxes under his Corvette on his garage floor with a garage door that you can cut open with a scissor. We know those doors. You lift them up. They advertise them. You lift it up with one hand. This is the protection. And where Hunter lives, I believe that's where Hunter lives. And these are documents. Now, why hasn't he been charged under this act? Why hasn't he? It's probably 30 times the number of documents. And I had the protection. It's not the protection, it's the law, but I had the protection of the Presidential Records Act. And they don't. It's never been used, this act, this heinous, horrible act, has never been used before for this, anything like this. But it shows you how nasty and horrible this administration is. These are nasty, horrible people. The espionage, think of that, the word espionage. The other is called the Presidential Records. That's what it is. It tells you exactly what you have to do. And basically it says the president makes the determination. And it's a civil act. It's not a criminal act. It's a civil act. And it only pertains to the president. So it wouldn't pertain to Biden because he wasn't president when he took all those documents. But why isn't he, think of it, why isn't he charged with espionage? It's really, we have a two-tier, but the people of the country will not stand for it. Under the Presidential Records Act, again, not a civil, this is civil, not a criminal law. It had every right. As president, you have every right to have these documents, personal belongings, and whatever else there is. Joe Biden didn't have the right. Mike Pence, and let's let him go. He had a couple of documents. Let's let him go. Let's let him go. But he didn't have the right either because he wasn't president. It only pertains to the president. They were not covered by the Presidential Records Act, but these scoundrels and thugs, they all come after Trump. Let's go after Trump. You know why? Because we're leading. If we were down in the polls, or if I was not running, if I was in a nice location somewhere getting a beautiful suntan saying, isn't this a beautiful world? But I'm fighting for you, that's all I'm doing. What? What a life. But I enjoy it. Because we created, prior to COVID coming in, and then what we did to get it back was incredible. But prior to COVID coming in, created the greatest country ever in history. We had never, African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, women, men, people with no diploma, people #1 in their class at Harvard, Wharton, MIT, the best schools. Everybody had a job. And even people on the left were calling me, let's get together. Success can bring the country together. We had the greatest success. That was the most successful period in the history of our country. And when people ask me, you know, because we talk about the left, we talk Marxist, or we talk all this, you know, do you notice how many people, and they're on my side, so I don't want, but do you notice I started using the Marxist and all of fascist. I started putting in certain words into my talks and speeches. Do you notice how many people are now using those words? I noticed coming into the plane, everyone's talking about the Marxists. We've got to stop the Marxists and the fascists, but I don't care if I'm copied because they're right. We got to stop them because they're bad. But I will tell you, during this period of time, I was getting calls from people that we would consider to be Marxists and fascists and others, people that you would not believe. and they wanted to get together. They had never seen anything like it. Everybody was working. We were energy dominant, really. We were getting ready to be. We were going to sell energy to Europe and to all parts of the world. We were at a level that we've never seen. We had $1.87 gasoline. We had everything going. I had Anwar approved. Even Ronald's friend and some of our people, Roger, as an example, big fan of Ronald Reagan, but he tried to get it done. Anwar couldn't get it done. The Bushes, of course, couldn't get it done. They didn't come close. But everybody wanted Anwar. Bigger, perhaps, than Saudi Arabia in terms of liquid gold in Alaska. I got it done. And the first thing they did is canceled it. And they canceled the Keystone Pipeline. And then energy started to go up, and then everything went to hell. And that's what caused the inflation. And we're going to be drilling, and we're going to be doing all sorts of things. And inflation's going to come down rapidly. And the interest rates, therefore, will follow. And we're going to have a country that I think it'll be unprecedented. The one thing we have to do is we have to get a lot of the criminals that have been allowed to come into our country. We have to get them out because we have some bad ones. The crucial legal precedent is laid out in the most important case on the Presidential Records Act ever on this subject, known as the Clinton, that's Bill Clinton, socks case. You know why socks? Because he took it out of his socks. I didn't take it out of my socks. I had boxes piled up in front of the White House, and everybody's taking pictures of them because I wasn't hiding anything. He took it out in his socks. After leaving the White House, Bill Clinton kept 79 audio tapes in his socks and in his sock drawer. That's why it's called the Clinton socks case. They included discussions of U.S. foreign policy options, both defense and offense against Cuba, the recordings of President Clinton's conversations with the biggest foreign leaders then in the world, sensitive facts about trade negotiations taken from presidential briefings, discussions with the Secretary of State about the conflict in Bosnia, which was a tough one, and so much more, really big stuff. Took it out. These were recordings. Took them out in his socks. They found him in his sock drawer. Nothing happened to him. Not only was Bill Clinton never even considered for criminal prosecution based on the tapes he took, but when he was sued for them, the government sued him civilly, not criminally. They didn't say you're going to go to jail under the Espionage Act. But when they sued him, he won the case. Judge Amy Berman Jackson's decision states, and very conclusively, listen to this, quote, under the statutory scheme established by the Presidential Records Act, the decision to segregate personal materials from presidential records is made by the president during the term of the president and in the president's sole discretion, not other people. Any normal administration, even an opposing one, would consider that to be the end. That's the end of it. But not when it comes to Trump and not when it comes to a candidate that's beating their candidate by a lot. This has never been done before. In other words, not the corrupt Biden regime. The Sox decision also states, quote, the National Archives, listen to this, that's NARA, a very left group, by the way. They have the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights red flagged. You know why? Because they consider them to be dangerous documents, okay? This is the group that's after me. The National Archives and Records Administration, NARA, does not have, this is her decision, respected, does not have the authority to designate materials as presidential records. It's not up to them. NARA does not have the tapes in question, and NARA lacks any right, duty, or means to seize control of these tapes. The president enjoys, quote, the president enjoys unconstrained authority to make decisions regarding the disposal of documents. Now, this is a law passed in 1977, Presidential Records Act. Neither the archivist nor Congress has the authority to veto the president's decision. Totally up to the president, which is me. Does not pertain to the vice president or anybody else. The Presidential Records Act does not confer any mandatory or even discretionary authority on the archivist, that's NARA, to classify these records. Under the statute, this responsibility is left solely to the President of the United States, your favorite president, me. They indicted me. They think of it. You don't have to be a lawyer to understand those words. That's very as simple as it gets. They indicted me. In other words, whatever documents a president decides to take with him, he has the absolute and unquestioned right to do so. This is a law that was passed and signed. And that's the law, and that's the way it is, and it couldn't be more clear. And I will quote from a paper that I would say has not been on our side too much, but even the New York Times, in a major article, said that when it comes to asking for documents from former president, the only power that NARA has is to say to the President of the United States, pretty please, could we possibly have the documents? Quote, asking nicely is about all they can do. That's all they can do. Think, you didn't hear this stuff. You know, you read about espionage and insurrection. These people are sick. They're sick. And yet, they reported me to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. Now, you hear what the law is. That's the law. By the way, there were many other cases that back that up, too. I didn't even know that until 2 days ago. Many other cases back that up. Nothing like this has ever happened to our country before. That is why no other president, even those who kept far more documents than I, like Biden, who wasn't president, and that's very dangerous, by the way, because he doesn't come under the Presidential Records Act. When he took all this stuff, he wasn't president. But it's never even been investigated. Nobody else was ever even investigated over this, let alone charged with a very severe crime. The good news is the people understand it, they get it, and that's why we're leading by more points than we were doing very well, but it went up. Who else gets indicted and their poll numbers go up?